Alright, so you want to play a warrior, but before committing your time and possibly gems to unlock a few back slots, equipment and build tabs, you want to make sure what their endgame experience is like, and you're looking for a bit more information than the usual, well, they have high HP and armor. Every profession in Guild Wars 2 has a unique class mechanic, and a few exclusive tools only they can bring to the field. Warriors have Adrenaline, which is a bar that fills up whenever you hit an enemy and can be spent to unleash a powerful attack called a burst. Their elite specializations each get a different iteration of this mechanic. Berserkers will retain their burst skill, but can choose to spend their adrenaline to go berserk instead, increasing their attack and movement speed and gaining access to a primal burst skill. During berserk, you'll feel like you're playing a warrior on steroids, rewarding you for hitting skills consistently and fast so you can unleash a primal burst every few seconds. Spellbreakers will give up one adrenaline bar, making their burst skill slightly weaker, but in turn they get access to full counter, which pretty much does what it says. It will let you absorb the next attack and interrupt all enemies around you, while also resetting your burst skill's cooldown. This will allow for a very fast and reactive playstyle, as you'll have plenty of time activating full counters during an enemy's wind-up animation. Warriors also have unique traits that will let them swap weapons much more frequently than any other class, reducing their cooldown from 9 to potentially 5 seconds. Well, Bladesworns give up this ability to swap weapons, but they gain access to a gun saber with 5 unique skills instead. Their adrenaline will become flow, which can be converted to up to 5 charges, which will empower their unique dragon trigger attacks. Bladesworns will have breaks during their rotation when charging a dragon trigger, but in turn they get to land devastating attacks that will dwarf the damage of any other ability in the game. To some, this can make playing a Bladesworn feel clunky at first, but once you get in the flow of charging and hitting those dragon triggers, that feeling should dissipate soon. Now that you know what each spec feels like, let's also take a look at what they actually bring to the field, both in the open world and in endgame group content. All warriors have access to banners, which will grant various buffs or inflict conditions on cast, and will periodically pulse them in their vicinity for some time as well. They have an elite banner called Battle Standard, which can literally turn the tide of any battle. This skill is on a hefty 120 seconds cooldown, but in turn will resurrect up to 5 fallen allies and finish off up to 5 enemies as well. A well-placed battle standard can literally mean the difference between wiping or killing a raid boss, and can even speed up meta events when players die to certain mechanics. All 3 elite specs, as well as core warrior even, work extremely well in the open world, and I'd recommend picking the one which profession mechanic sounds the most appealing to you. Berserkers are amazing for tagging in Zerks and meta events, as their longbow's primal burst will let them place down massive AoE fields, while Spellbreakers will offer a more reactive playstyle and Bladesworns a more methodical playstyle with their dragon triggers needing to charge up. I recently made an immortal Spellbreaker build that can even auto-attack enemy champions to death while ignoring mechanics. I'll link that one in the pinned comments, and if you want to see a build for any other of the specializations or even core warrior, let me know in the comments down below. When it comes to endgame PvE group content, warriors bring a lot of tools to any group they join. All 3 elite specs can bring a decent power DPS build, while Berserkers can also choose to go condition DPS instead. You have both Boon Support roles covered, as Berserkers can provide quickness, while Bladesworns can bring Alacrity to their subgroups. Both of these are tied to the profession mechanic, meaning Berserkers will grant quickness by using burst skills, and Bladesworns Alacrity by using Dragon Slash. This means that if you can play either role as a regular DPS, you'll do fine playing a Boon Support as well. While not a meta pick, you can also bring a Quick Heal Berserker or an Alacrity Heal Sworn to the group. ArenaNet recently hinted that warrior staff will be centered around providing support, so who knows, maybe we'll start seeing more Heal Zerkers or Heal Sworns soon. Remember Battle Standard being so great? Well, that's not all warriors bring to a group. They can bring a massive amount of crowd control, and both Spellbreakers and Berserkers sacrifice very little for doing so. This makes them an excellent addition to any team whenever you're fighting an enemy that will require destroying break bars consistently and fast. When it comes to gear and stats, warriors can use the same set for multiple roles actually. A set of Berserkers gear will work for all 3 power DPS builds, as well as Alacrity support Bladesworns, and a Viper set will work for both Condi DPS and Condi Quickness Berserkers. If you want to play a power Quickness Berserker, I would recommend investing in a few pieces of Diviner's gear, as you'll want to have around 42% boon duration. You can use these Diviner's pieces for your Alacrity Bladesworn as well, which will result in a slight DPS loss, but will give you a more relaxed rotation instead. Whatever build you run, warriors greatly benefit from being crit capped. But don't worry if this is starting to sound a bit much. I'll provide a link to the meta battle page, which has all of the warrior builds and gear recommendations. If you don't care for group content and you want to run around in the open world, you can choose to bring a bit more defense. Power builds can use Marauders or Knights gear depending on whether you want more HP or more armor. And condition builds can bring Trailblazers, Celestial or Ritualist gear depending on which stat you value the most. If you want to play a warrior both in the open world and in group content, you can choose to buy trinkets with the defensive stats to use in the open world and keep your raid strikes and fractals gear for your armor and weapons. That way you only need to swap out trinkets depending on what mode you're playing. That about covers everything there is to know about playing a warrior in the open world and in groups in PvE. Let me know in the comments down below what other classes you would like to see covered next. While scrolling down, you'd do me a massive favor by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.